Before the dinosaurs, before the T-Rex, before anything you recognize from a museum or a movie poster, there was a world so violent, so alien, so stacked with monsters that the Jurassic looks tame by comparison. The Permian Period, 300 million years ago, one supercontinent, one brutal, unforgiving ecosystem, and the most dangerous lineup of predators Earth has ever assembled in a single age. These are not the animals history remembers. These are the ones that should have been remembered. The ones that ruled before the volcano took everything. This is the top 5. Number 5. Dimetrodon. We start with the one you've seen before, but never understood. That plastic toy in the bag of dinosaurs, the one with the sail, the one that everyone assumes is a prehistoric reptile, a distant cousin of the T-Rex. It isn't. Dimetrodon is more closely related to you than it is to any dinosaur. It was a cynosapt, the same ancient lineage that eventually produced mammals. And in the early Permian, between 295 and 272 million years ago, it was the undisputed apex predator of its world. Up to 4.6 meters long, jaws lined with 2 different types of teeth, serrated for slicing at the front, blade-like for cutting at the back. The first animal in the history of life on Earth to have differentiated teeth. Not the crude uniform cone teeth of a fish or a reptile. Specialized tools for specialized jobs. A prototype of the mammalian mouth built 280 million years before mammals existed. And that sail, rising up to 2 meters from its spine, was a thermal weapon. It heated its blood faster than anything else in the ecosystem, letting it hunt at full speed while its cold-blooded prey was still sluggish from the night's chill. It was the Permian's first warm runner. Dimetrodon didn't just sit at the top of the food chain, it engineered its position there. Number 4. Pampaphanus beccaii. Most people have never heard this name. That's the point. Pampaphanus was a dinocephalian, a subgroup of therasaps that produced some of the most brutal predators of the Middle Permian. It lived in what is now Brazil, in an ecosystem that has left us very few fossils, which is exactly why it has been overlooked. 10 feet long, 400 kilograms, a skull built for bone crushing, large, reinforced with canine teeth, designed not just to kill, but to process the skeleton afterward. Its bite force was comparable to a modern hyena, an animal that routinely crushes femurs for the marrow inside. Pampaphanus was doing that 265 million years ago. It preyed on massive dicynodonts, pig-like herbivores the size of hippos, and on the large crocodile-like amphibians that shared its floodplain world. It was South America's apex predator at a time when South America was fused to Africa, Russia, and Antarctica in a single landmass. This animal ruled a continent. History just forgot to write it down. Number 3. Ankylosaurus. If Pampaphanus is the hyena of the Permian, Ankylosaurus is the T-Rex. A dinocephalian from what is now South Africa, Ankylosaurus was by far the largest predator of the Middle Permian. Skull up to 80 centimeters long, longer than most people are tall. Body length estimated at 5 to 6 meters. Massive reinforced limbs, a jaw packed with enormous pointed incisors and canines designed to seize and tear flesh from prey that could weigh several tons. But what makes Ankylosaurus genuinely remarkable is the brain. Analysis of its skull cavity suggests it had a brain oriented toward agility and predation than most of its contemporaries. Enhanced semicircular canals, indicating good balance and coordination. A brain structure more similar to active pursuit predators than ambush hunters. Ankylosaurus didn't sit, it chased. It ran down its prey in open terrain, used its massive skull as a battering ram in combat with rivals, and processed bone with a jaw powerful enough to bite through the spine of a multi-ton herbivore. It was the apex of the Middle Permian. Nothing in its ecosystem challenged it directly and survived. Number 2. Instranovina, the one that crossed the world. Instranovina was the largest of the gorgonopsids, the saber-toothed predators of the late Permian, and it was built at a scale that no modern big cat has ever matched. Over 3 meters long, 300 kilograms, saber teeth up to 15 centimeters, longer than your hand, root to tip, designed for slashing wounds that bled prey to exhaustion before the killing bite was delivered. It was the first saber-toothed predator on Earth. Smilodon, the famous Ice Age saber-toothed cat, came 250 million years later and used the exact same design. Instranovina invented it. And then, in the final chapters of the Permian, as the ecosystem began to collapse, it did something extraordinary. The local apex predators of South Africa died early. The throne was empty, and Instranovina, native to Russia, walked 7,000 miles across the supercontinent of Pangaea to claim it. 7,000 miles, on foot, across a dying world. It ruled the Karoo Basin of South Africa for a brief, violent window, and then the Siberian traps finished everything. Instranovina was the last king of the Permian. It died on a throne that dissolved beneath it. Number 1. The gorgonopsids. No single species takes the top spot. The entire lineage does, and here's why. The gorgonopsids were not just predators, they were an evolutionary argument, a proof of concept written in bone and muscle and saber teeth, running across the late Permian for millions of years, asking the question, what happens if you build a mammal but make it a killer first? Semi-erect posture, diaphragm breathing, differentiated teeth, acute senses, a gait built for pursuit across open ground. They were not reptiles wearing mammal clothing. They were the beta version of every apex predator that came after them, the template from which lions and tigers and every warm-blooded killer on Earth was eventually drawn. They dominated the Permian for millions of years. They produced species ranging from wolf-sized hunters to the continent-crossing giants like Instranovina. They held the top of the Permian food chain with a grip so complete that the dinosaur ancestors, the future rulers of Earth, spent the entire Permian hiding in the undergrowth, too small and too outmatched to compete. The gorgonopsids didn't just dominate the Permian, they defined it. And then, when the Siberian traps opened and the world began to die, every single one of them went with it. Not one species survived. Not one lineage scraped through. The greatest predators the Permian produced were so perfectly built for that world that when the world ended, they had nowhere else to go. That is not a failure. That is the price of perfection. The Permian is gone. Its monsters are gone. The volcano took them all. But for 60 million years, longer than the entire dinosaur age, these animals ruled a world that has been almost completely forgotten. They deserve to be remembered.